if it does go wrong, in this scenario, you are dead.
Yeah! Matt,
I ride mountain bikes for a living.
what have you got in the garage at the minute?
I've got an Ariel Nomad, a 1968 Ford Mustang, a Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale, or a Murciélago SV. Come up 6 foot short on a huge jump and blow my ankles. I got sponsored by Red Bull in 2014 and shattered my wrist the day after. When it ends, it really ends.
Matt, you are used to loading bikes into the back of vans, not usually yourself, but thank you for joining me in the back of my Road to Success van studio. In your own words, who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Well, Matt Jones. I don't know. Who am I? I've not even been asked that really. Quite hungry, not just for food, but like for, success, trying to figure it all out. Foolish, I think I'd describe myself as. I made a lot of mistakes. I often think I've failed more than most people have tried. But yeah, that's my characteristics, I'd say, and I ride mountain bikes for a living.
This is predominantly an automotive-led podcast, but people that are still passionate about automotive things and have mounted amazing car collections and done cool stunts with cars, sometimes it comes from a completely different place, which in your story it has done because your athleticism, your athlete life has led you into the world of being able to mount an unbelievable collection of cars too. What have you got in the garage at the minute?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I've got an Ariel Nomad, which is the best. It's
Sick.
Actually the coolest car. A 1968 Ford Mustang Fastback GT. A Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale. That's like the rawest, best driving experience ever. And I've just bought a Murciélago SV.
In orange.
In orange, yeah, which I haven't posted anywhere yet. I'm a bit embarrassed, to be honest. It's like way too gnarly and way too sick, so I don't really know how to reveal that to people because I feel like, I can't. It's like imposter syndrome, really. But that's the collection.
So starting with the Nomad, when the Nomad was like launched, which is, to anybody that doesn't know, Ariel, that most people probably know the Atoms, which they know them for on track. They look like scaffolding with a wing and 4 tyres. They decided to do the same thing, but a little bit higher up, a little bit more dumpy shaped, a bit like me really. And then they stuck some off-road tyres on it. And you were, the second you saw that, were you like, I have to have one of these?
Yeah, I didn't know they existed, dude. And then saw one on a Top Gear video. Then got a message, weirdly, like it's funny how things happen, like when it rains it pours. I saw it in a Top Gear video and thought that's sick, and like was aware of it. The same week got a message from someone at Ariel Motors who said, do you want to come down and try out a Nomad? And I thought that's just the most bizarre link. I didn't request that. It's like maybe you just become aware of things when you're thinking about it. Went down there, had a test drive in one round Salisbury Plains, which is like army tank testing area. So it's all off-road, huge puddles. Absolutely loved it. It's like just the car that a mountain biker wants. It's built for off-road and on-road. It's rear-wheel drive, has a hydraulic handbrake, has like no windows, nothing electric, no ABS, no traction control. It's like a pit bike for the road, and it's fast, like so fast.
So was that like, even with those other sick cars, was that just like your emotions were on another level? Like I've just got to have this, because sometimes it's the least valuable in the collection, although they're still silly money, they are. Yeah. But it's those kind of things you weren't expecting that get you to go, like you remember them even more so sometimes than the super duper expensive silly stuff.
Yeah, I promise you it's my favourite car I've ever owned. I've had my dream cars and the cars I've aspired to own, but that one just ticks all the boxes. Round a track with like 50-50 on-road, off-road tyres, it's so wild and alive and drifts every corner. It's ridiculously fast in a straight line. I mean, that has 300 horsepower because I got the supercharger fitted, which they do from factory, and weighs 750 kilos. So that car has a bigger power to weight ratio than my McLaren 600 LT had at the time. And when you compare those two, and like power to weight is what it's about up to 60 mile an hour, if you know what I mean. So that is something else to drive.
And the first time I saw you in it, it was actually around about 40-something mile an hour, because it was the first video I think I watched from start to finish, because it hooked me into your other content, because you were using the Atom to do something, which was you deciding that you were going to jump over your house, and you used the Ariel Nomad to aid you in doing so. Where were you when you had the idea to jump over your house using a bike?
I was viewing the house for the first time with the previous owner, and just literally saw it for what it was at the driveway, lines up with the house. The pitched roof looked like a landing. It went through like another valley of roofs, so it wouldn't be the tallest landing. I just saw that with some plywood that would be possible, and then it took me 18 months to bring it to life. But I think loads of bike riders, skaters, scooter riders, whoever you are, move through life like looking for stuff like that. Like when I drive down the motorway, I'll look at hillsides in the distance and see how they could be massive giant step ups. I don't know. That's just the way I see things. So when I look around that house, I was like, well, that's a jump.
Well, you're clearly a professional and have obviously turned it into an income through sponsorship, through YouTube, through everything you've competed in, through all the years since you began. But to be good at your sport and actually turn it into a career, what else do you have to be good at to make that all happen?
It's a really good question. So the mountain biking specific side of it, like talent on a bike, is super important because everything else is satellite to that. It all stems off from how successful you've been at biking competitions, photo shoots, videos. But honestly, the 95% of the income I've made from riding a bike has been through being entrepreneurial and business minded. And that's the honest truth. I used to compete against riders who were better than me. They did better tricks. They often scored higher at competitions. I was still really good, but there were names that were better, and they can't do it for a career anymore because they didn't build out kind of all the stuff that circumnavigates your skill on a bike, and that's sponsors, making your own brands, YouTube, content. Like there's so many categories that all need to exist for it to be a career. Because unfortunately, just going to 5-6 competitions a year in my sport isn't enough, and that is a shame, but that's the reality of it.
So let's start then as a pinpoint to that journey of what got you into your passion, what got you into that, what was like that catalyst moment you were just like, I'm made to be on two wheels?
Discovering jumps in the woods near my house and realising that, honestly, I actually think that it was that you can crash and get back up and try again. Like I love scaring myself, and I love pushing myself, and I love breaking new ground. And a sport where you can actually roll down a landing, think, why did that go wrong? Get up and try a 360 tail whip again until you land it is the best thing ever. Because there are sports, like I think motocross is way more insane. If you want to do freestyle motocross, you can't. If you crash your first backflip, you're not going to do another one for 9 months, are you? Whereas on a mountain bike, the jumps where I was learning were a bit smaller and the landings were a bit softer, and I could crash, still be hurt and bruised, but try again. And when you're like a kid, that's just the biggest buzz ever.
And for someone that really doesn't understand that too much, and the first time I got on a bike recently, for years, I just fell off within 3 seconds. My back. How often would you like those crashes be like slightly worse, like breaking bones and stuff like that?
Right, so you can actually be good at crashing. That's an important thing to note. Beginners and people that get into mountain biking are more likely to hurt themselves at the start when they're doing small jumps than when you're really experienced doing massive jumps. Like the bigger jumps get, I often say this to people, they almost get safer because the margin for error is massive. You can go 10 foot too far on an 80-foot jump and be fine. If you go 10 foot too far on a 10-foot jump, you've doubled the gap. You're probably in the next takeoff, you're going to hit a tree. Like there's this scalable risk relationship where the better you get and the bigger jumps you do, it almost gets a bit safer within reason, right? So to answer your question, well, I don't want to say that you should just go and hit massive jumps, but like with time, the injuries, you still haven't, I haven't answered it very well, have I? You
What
still
you're
have
saying-
massive crashes and massive injuries, but I'm less worried about hurting myself now at these big events than I was like trying some small odd jump for the first time.
Yeah, it's like navigating on a track if you're going through a really tight chicane section. Like there's loads of margin for error by hitting one of the curbs wrong, by hitting whatever wrong. What you're saying is kind of when everything's a bit more bunched up together, there's obviously more to go wrong. There's more to hit, there's more stuff. And as you get more confident to just do a massive jump, there's almost one margin for error, which is just not hitting your spot, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if that's like what got you into it and you learned how to be good at kind of crashing and then realised that you were kind of fearless for it, did the competing come in like your early teens and like did you just find that you had this mad competitive hunger?
I didn't actually. I'm not that competitive as a person. Like I've lost at so many things and had disastrous competitions where I put all my eggs in a basket and crashed on the first jump. And I'm never like distraught by it, which I think is interesting because a lot of the guys I was competing against at the time like was so upset if it went wrong, and I always used to think, oh, you know, I'm lucky to just be here. But the comps just happened by accident. I I did a gap year where I was supposed to go to uni and do engineering, and took a year out and went to 2 events just because a couple of mates were. I was like, yeah, I'll come. Can I apply? Yeah, they were like, yeah, just enter online. It's this open qualifier. First one was called Vienna Air King, and I just got lucky and did well. I pre-qualified first to get into the main event, then qualified 10th and came 10th, I think, in finals. And a top 10 back then from just being a nobody was quite a big jump, and made me aware that I was, compared to the other pro riders from around the world, like doing well. But before that, I was just like at the local woods and was the best out of all my mates. But that's not a measure of things, is it? You could be the best BMXer at your local skate park, but you have no idea what that means for you in the grand scheme of life, does it?
So what sort of age was that?
Oh, so right, that was 17, 18, yeah.
I'm trying to build the timeline. And by then, did you have any of that like entrepreneurial fleck creeping in? Like at school at all, were you ever the kid that was selling stuff or like learning to sell something, or like, if you pay me X and I'll do this?
No.
Was that you?
No, not at all.
So did that just suddenly develop, or did you kind of discover it? Like your YouTube channel, you started in 2013. You actually joined on September the 29th, 2013. You've now built over 900,000 subscribers across 715 videos and 250 million views. Like,
Is that right?
that is the number. 249 million.
Didn't know that.
It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's just on one channel. But if you started back in 2013, where was that by the time that you were doing that competition? Were you filming? Were you making content?
I think I remember making a YouTube channel because a guy called Sam Pilgrim, another big mountain bike YouTuber, he had a YouTube channel, and I was doing his YouTube videos with him. We were doing a road trip around Europe where he bought a big coach, like a bus, turned it into one we could sleep in, and we went on a road trip, right, making videos for his YouTube channel. So at the time I was like, I'm going to make a YouTube channel, but I didn't post anything for 3 years. I wish I did. Like, one of my regrets is not starting all that stuff earlier, right, and realizing that any decision you make can be for the best if you just go for it. But I was always behind then. I was watching everyone else come up with new ideas and making content and wasn't doing it myself. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. I had no idea what the upside was of YouTube. I had no idea you could make loads of money from it. I had no idea that sponsors cared about it. That was the interesting one. I was so programmed into thinking I need to win events. I need to be a winner if I want to get sponsorship. And it's only through sponsorship that I can earn money and make this into a career. Whereas it turns out that actually there's so much more upside to scalable content, and, you know, videos that can get millions of views, you could earn more money from and raise more awareness of your name from than riding for a specific brand that are a bit more narrow-minded. They just want to sell their products, right? Which might not appeal to anyone. YouTube is for everyone, so why wouldn't you be in that space?
And you're obviously really confident now. You'd have been confident to get on a bike, but I've met Sam once because randomly I opened the door of this van, genuinely doing a podcast in a Starbucks car park in the middle of Essex, and he skidded up outside in some sort of buggy thing. And like my mate that I was doing the podcast with was like, that's Sam Pilgrim. And he was nuts.
Yeah.
So like when you see that energy, was that always something that you were like, oh, he works on YouTube because of that? Like, did you ever make that combination, or you were like, oh, I think I could make a channel work too?
Sam's energy is ridiculous. He's like a little kid trapped in an adult's body, and it works so well for YouTube. He is a born entertainer. There's actually a pro BMX rider called Harry Main that convinced me that I would have like a shot at YouTube. I was again doing videos with him. I gave him his first dirt jump bike and mountain bike. He wanted to start riding mountain bikes, and he had like 1 to 2 million subscribers at the time. Harry was like the BMX YouTuber, and he came to my compound where I've got a training set up, and he just said to me like, I don't understand why you don't do YouTube. Like, this is a film set. Like, forget it as what you don't come here to train. This is where you should come to film. This is a film set. You can build what you want, ride with who you want. Like, treat this as a film set, and it completely reframed the whole thing. So I'm not like I'm not out there in the world naturally coming up with loads of business ideas, but people say things and plant seeds, and it really like changes my way of thinking. And I've noticed that a lot along the way. I think it's why I wasn't as a teenager like business minded.
What do you think was like the first moment you remember that convinced you that it was something that could be a success and like a big part of the rest of your career?
YouTube. Harry Main. Just that. Just telling me that I already had all the pieces of the puzzle. I had a location to film. I had somewhere I could build jumps. People like watching you build things. I had somewhere where I could train and try new tricks and push myself. That's again a type of content that people want to see. They want to see you struggle. They want to see you try. They want to see you fail. And I already had the place to do that. And I was doing it every day. But the purpose of me doing it was to go and win competitions. If I just filmed the process, that was already like a hook. That was what the style of content people want to watch that no one was sharing. So that was it. And I started doing that, trying tricks, and people really liked it. And I also realised that you don't have to be like a big, loud clown. Like, you don't have to turn everything into like comedy. You can actually have a serious chat with the audience, because the YouTube audience are just people. Whereas I think from doing stuff with Sam, I thought that it has to be high octane, adrenaline, funny, but not every video does. So yeah, it was a learning process.
After losing my dad, Kevin, in 2020, it made me realise just how important good health is. And if you want to be performing just like Matt does to the max, then listen up. 1 in 4 men suffer from low testosterone, and 90% of you remain undiagnosed. And a good way to check if that's you is by using manual. Checking your testosterone is such a good idea because it can cause so many health issues, including weight gain and low mood and anxiety. Don't just put this down to feeling old or having a cold. If you really want to achieve your own road to success, this is something that you know you need to solve. Now, I'll be honest, I literally hate needles, but the little kit that Manuel sent me, I used the tool and it was honestly fine. You then just drop a couple of drops of blood into a vial, pop it in the post, they give you a label to make it super easy to put it in a post box, and a few days later you will have your results back. And when I had mine back, it did actually confirm that I was one of the 1 in 4 and that I had low testosterone. But of course, Manual have a solution for that, otherwise why would they be helping you with their test kits? And what I'm going to be doing is starting a consultation to start TRT services to get my testosterone back on track. It literally will not get fixed without this. I'm excited to share my journey with you on improving my testosterone using Manual and their services. And if you'd like to check yours out too, then please head to the description and hit that link down there. And they've given you a massive discount using code ROAD45 of 45% off. So what are you waiting for? Please don't put your health to the side and go and get checked out, and then you can be performing just like Matt. Out of those guys that you grew up with, and then the guys that you went through competitions with, and even all of those guys, how many people in that world want the Red Bull sponsored athlete title? Does it mean more than most cups would?
Yeah, 100%. Being a Red Bull athlete's a massive privilege, to be honest. I'm so lucky. It was like right place, right time for me, because they only sponsor one athlete per discipline per country. So I am the freestyle mountain bike rider, the slopestyle rider for the UK. Even though I'm doing more YouTube stuff now and projects, I've ticked that box for Red Bull, right? There are scenarios where they've got a couple of downhill races and things like that in different countries, but so that's not a lot of, like, the air's quite thin up there when there's one per discipline, isn't there?
Yeah, I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah, and there are a lot of Red Bull athletes now because they do so many sports, but it comes with so many perks, like the ability to meet other pros from all different sports. We get together every year for an athlete summit. If you get hurt, they've got their own surgeons. They've got like contacts at all the hospitals.
What?
Yeah. When all my big injuries I've had from riding a bike, they've patched me up in a way that I would never ever have had access to if I wasn't on Red Bull.
Because you had a big one in 2018, right?
I can't. Yeah, loads. I shattered my wrist. Yeah, maybe that was my wrist. Yeah. I shattered my wrist twice. I think probably that year, and once a lot before. But that was the guy who first put my wrist back together, was like the best hand surgeon in the country. Because it's in Manchester.
Everyone looks at Red Bull as like they've absolutely led marketing for God knows how long. And when I've actually spoke to someone there before, they kind of reverse engineer that statement and go like, yeah, but it's weird because we don't necessarily know what works. It's just that everything that we're doing somehow works, but we don't necessarily know which bits of it work. No. Which is quite weird, really, isn't it?
Dude, like, marketing's the hardest thing to measure in the world. You could have all these campaigns going on at once. You don't know which one's selling drinks, do you? But it is. They don't know if it's the Formula 1 team or the football teams they now own, or us extreme sports athletes, or a guy jumping out of space. But the recipe sells they're on track to sell 1 billion cans in the UK in a year.
That's insane.
That's over they're already selling over 2 million cans of Red Bull a day just in this country.
Yeah, that is wild.
Wild, isn't it?
There is a lot of drink. And
for marketing,
when you think that a lot of their marketing is through pro athletes, and they've only got one of those guys per category in the UK, as you said before, that is quite thin air, really. Yeah. You'd think that it is actually more than that. I think your impression, based on what you see, is that it's more than that. So that's kind of blown my mind. But Red Bull are obviously a huge brand. If you're selling 1 billion cans of drink, you're absolutely everywhere. Enormous company. What baffles me is, like, when you get into the world of big companies, you get stricter and stricter and stricter and stricter health and safety. Yet the things that Red Bull associate themselves with are the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's almost just like the least. So that's the first time I've actually ever heard of anything internal that's there to kind of add a little bit of deficit there, maybe. So just take me through that. You shatter your wrists, and then what happens?
Okay, so do you want to know, honestly, I got sponsored by Red Bull in 2014 and shattered my wrist the day after at the event that they'd invited me to come to surprise me with Red Bull sponsorship. It, like, honestly went to my head. The next day, thought I was invincible, did a backflip tail whip on a jump. In the last show, last run, last jump, last day, bailed. I was probably really hungover from celebrating the night before from getting on Red Bull, right? But landed, knew I'd busted my wrist, but didn't know how bad it was. Didn't want to tell anyone because I haven't even got a contract yet. Like, I've just been given a helmet, but it's all kind of gentleman's handshake. I'm not going to now say I'm going to not ride for 6 months. They were also banking on me doing a load of big events that year. So I took all my kit off, went back to where we were staying, got my bike in the car, drove home, and I had to do a hill start on a hill at a red light using the handbrake with my left hand, and I honestly almost threw up in my lap. Like, it got longer. I watched my wrist extend because it was definitely smashed up. Drove home, told my brother, I was like, I think I've smashed my wrist up. And he was like, no way, but what about Red Bull? That's what all we were thinking about. It's like, how do you tell them? You can't tell them. Go to hospital. So I went to A&E, praying that it was like ligaments or something, or I could ride the next week. They did an X-ray and they said, yeah, you've got like all the bones through the middle, the scaphoid, the lunate, the triquetral or something, they're broken, and your your radius, the end of it shattered. And I was like, how long am I going to be off the bike for? Is it like weeks? And they were like, no, this is going to be months, like months and months with the physio. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to tell Red Bull because they are literally, there's not even any point in them booking me flights to the next comp. And they say, yeah, no worries, come up to Manchester tomorrow morning, we'll get you a CT scan, MRI scan, and get you to see a proper surgeon. And like, their approach to it was completely different. We're going to do surgery in a different way. And it was like just the biggest stroke of luck ever, and made me realise that obviously we get paid, we get free Red Bull, we get to go to all these cool events, but they actually want us to do so well and look after us.
Is that because maybe one of the number one things with the athletes is like the security policy that they won't necessarily send it as much? Do you know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Because your fear then
Yeah.
was you hurt yourself, so you're not going to have your sponsorship because you've hurt yourself within a day of them giving you something. So if you're not going to have you for however much time,
They might take it away.
They might take it away.
Yes.
Is that fear now completely removed in like the rest of everything that you do? So if you do a video and think I could really bust myself up here, say for a year or 2 years, would you worry about losing your Red Bull contract?
No, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's definitely alleviated the and yeah, you're right. It does allow you to send it harder, doesn't it? Knowing that the safety blanket will still sponsor you. Like, it's what do you call it? An occupational hazard, right? We're not going to drop you because you get hurt. But at the start, like, that's 100% what it felt like. Felt like I'd just got a new job with a new boss, and I was going to have to tell the boss I can't come to work for the next 6 months. They'd get rid of you, wouldn't they?
But in some parts of life, with the Red Bull name associated with it, it's the most savage getting rid environment that people would look at. Look at Formula One.
Yeah, true.
So in Formula One, the Red Bull seats are the or the Red Bull second seat, let's just say, is one of the most hotly debated, crazy subjects of all. They've literally just last week swapped out Lawson after 2 races and put in Tsunoda. You just told me that the air's quite thin up there. There's one person per each category in the UK for that specific thing. Yet you kind of feel so relaxed about the fact that you can hurt yourself because there's been there before and you'll absolutely be fine. Is there not, in the sport that you're involved with and the ones around it, that same sense of fear over seats? Because surely there's new talent coming up all the time.
Yeah, there will be, but Formula One is so results driven, and so is downhill racing, and so is motocross, and so is slopestyle, which is what I was doing at the time. But now I'm in a different category where if I get hurt, I can still make videos, I can still build things, I can still go and visit other riders, I can still come here and do this with you, right? So I think I've built some security in the way I've structured my career and the things I do, so that my eggs aren't all in one basket, which is results. Whereas for Formula One, like, they are so into getting wins that if you're not getting wins, then you need to go.
So you're not saying that that's the same with a lot of the categories that you're involved with? Completely different.
I don't know. I think it's just the mountain bike world. Everyone accepts that people get hurt, and it's not the end, is it? Because people have come back from injury and done great things and won world championships, and it pays to hang on to those people, right? If you believe in them.
Well, it must pay, because we spoke about a lot of the cars at the start, and you went inside your humble
Lovely
hood
segue.
with worrying about the Murciélago.
Yeah.
When the hell, because I think a lot of people think this with YouTube, when the hell did you learn how to charge for your craft? Because if you're getting into it, no one necessarily knows how much a contract is with X. No one necessarily knows how to judge it. Like, for argument's sake, I understood one of the first things that I understood about YouTube and like media is a sort of a price per 1,000 views. Like that's your base mark, and then like price per 100,000 views, for example. How did you start to learn about like that? Obviously, you said like Red Bull, there's your contract. Do they just expect you because you want one to just sign it? It could be for a tenner for all you know, but you've got a Red Bull logo on it. Like, how do you approach something that you want so much over those years, knowing that you need to also get something out of it?
Well, at the start, you just say yes. You're exactly right. You want Red Bull more than they want you. I'd pay them for the sponsorship. You know what I mean? At the start, that Red Bull helmet has more value than you can quantify to me at the age of 18, 17. I promise you. In time, you learn your worth, and you learn that you can sell things, because I made a brand, Hellfair clothing brand, and realised that off my own back I can sell products. So already there's a measure of how much, money I can convert from making content to actually selling products. But when it comes to brands and things, it is a tricky one. I remember the first company that paid me money was 510 Shoes. They're now owned by Adidas. They make mountain bike shoes, right? And I was digging up the woods at Woburn, where I grew up riding, filling wheelbarrows on my own, and got an email. I think I'd only just got a smartphone with emails. I don't know why I said that, but do you know what I mean? You realise actually there was a time where I could get an email on my phone, and it said, "Hi Matt, looking to just redo your contract this year. Really happy with what you've done. We're going to look to pay you a €1,000 retainer for the year to stay on board with us." And I laughed my head off, saying, "Are they idiots? Like, they must be stupid. Why do they want to pay me money? Because I'm doing it anyway. Like, they could not pay me money, and I'll still just have the shoes and ride the shoes because they're the best shoes." I thought, they're so stupid, wasting €1,000 on me. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's all relative. At the time, I thought, why would you pay me to do something I'm doing anyway? Then with time, you realise, well, I could do that thing, but wearing someone else's shoes, and then they would get the slight benefit. And then you realise, actually, I need to charge for that properly, because I do a lot in 12 months. It's 365. Yeah, anyway. And but there's no way at the time, when I was younger, I even knew you could make money from mountain biking.
But did YouTube come after that then? So like YouTube AdSense would have been after being offered 1,000 for the year just to wear somebody's
years
shoes.
After.
So was it like incrementally you understanding how to charge for your worth and your craft?
Yeah, 100% incrementally. Well, YouTube came later for me. I think probably a lot of people you speak to understand the YouTube game inside out, and they rely on it massively. But for me, that's always just been one of the arms that come off from what I'm doing. So in fact, like in the last year, I've taken loads of focus away from YouTube, because I've been I'm actually building a mountain bike video game, which I've now announced, but I haven't been able to talk about. And that's taken so much time away that I can't commit to making good quality videos. But to answer your question, YouTube's kind of obvious because you just get paid for your views, right? Brands are the hard one to speak to, because they have a marketing budget. You have a number in your head that you think you want to get from them, and you have to find a way of meeting in the middle. It's not just views turn into money through this exact metric. It's literally you and me sat opposite each other on a table and trying to land on a figure.
Without being like directly like, oh, it's this.
Yeah.
What is in a Red Bull contract? For example, like, do they expect X, Y, and Z? Like, it's you must wear our hat. If you go on someone's podcast, you must wear our merch or wherever possible to add the logo in. Like, what is the metrics that they are kind of looking for? And like, is there anything that is actually tracked?
There's a lot of people tracking stuff, yeah, but not in a bad way. But they need that to try and measure. Red Bull need to try and measure the performance of athletes, and these days that's not all through competition. That's through content and numbers online, right? But a contract will have, yes, you have to be branded on this podcast. I need to wear a Red Bull hat. That's what they're paying me for. You need to drink Red Bull and not other energy drinks. Yeah, that's all right, because that's That's all right, just fizzy water. Yeah, you know, you're loyal to one brand. They pay you to be loyal to one brand. They want you to come to a certain number of events a year for them, but that's sick anyway. Like, we get the last laugh. They're always gangster, wicked events. Then you got your fee. Yeah, the products you need to wear. Some athletes don't just wear hats; they'll have to wear like a headband if they're a runner, or, you know, different things like that. But it's pretty vague, and then you can get bonuses for winning stuff.
You know, you mentioned that when you turned up and looked at your house, you could see the course
Yeah.
and how you were going to get over the house. Do you also now, because you've been with them so long, see where you're going to put like marketing material and branding? Because you obviously had the big board on the side of the plywood jump.
Yeah.
Like, is that part of the whole vision? Are you almost seeing the video out or seeing the thing that you're going to do when you're doing that as well?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I guess at one point in my life, I just saw the stunt, and now I see the way it's going to have to be filmed, shot, edited, where it's going to go, what brands might want it, what logos to use. You're so right. There's way more to an idea now than just like a mad stunt.
Now, as much as...
And it's such an interesting point.
As much as me as an amateur, I'll just look at that video like probably 95% of people, because it reached such a wide audience. Like, I think that one was like 1 million views. Just looks at it and goes, "Oh, sick." With what I've just said, do you ever feel that if you're thinking about all that stuff, do you ever feel a bit rusty if in a particular stunt, if you've put that much time and effort into thinking about who's building my plywood jump, who's filming it, what angles are they at, where's the Ariel atom coming in? And then do you ever get up there and go, "Oh, hang on a second," like that? What I'm saying is, has all that stuff crept in to monetize it and make it possible, ever taken away from kind of incrementally building on talent?
Yeah, of course it has. The stuff I do now in the name of my career hinder my ability to be the best I can on the bike. You can't do both. You can't run 4 businesses and try and build like the best authentic video game and make YouTube videos and build jumps and do all of those things and be the best on a mountain bike, because the guy who's the best on the mountain bike is the one who's just doing that. And once upon a time that was me, but I'm trying to build a future and a life where I can go back to just riding my mountain bike as much as I want, and that's so rare. I think in this sport, you start off as an amateur, you get really good, you have this window of excitement and this career where you travel in the world and do all these events. And I've seen it way too much, and it drops off a cliff. Once you lose your bike sponsor and Red Bull and your YouTube views go down, and it can, like, when it ends, it really ends off a cliff. And I've seen it, but I don't think it has to. I think it just takes way more work at the point I'm at now, which is just having a 5-10 year plan and understanding that there is some longevity. There are some investments I can make. There are some brands that are going to want to stay with me beyond competition and beyond like doing big stunts, because if your brand grows, they can grow with it. And I just want that really badly at, like, I don't know whether it's going to be at 32 or 35, to just wind those dials down on all the stuff I'm doing now and just get up the woods, build jumps again and dig. That's where I'm trying to get to. That
word dig, I'm almost bursting at the seams to talk about that. But just finish off that section, you mentioned so many different forms of income that makes up you and the thing that you do and how you've monetized it.
Yeah.
If you could only choose to keep one, would it be the hat that you're wearing?
Right, I guess the different money I make is through mountain bike sponsors, which is like Red Bull's one of them. They sponsor me to do a thing. Then there's the businesses like Hellfair. I've got a sunglasses thing called Pink Eye. The video game is really exciting because I want to create a product for everyone that's cheap and experience, but it's a business, right? And then there's YouTube. So they're the pots: sponsorship, businesses, and YouTube. I'd keep sponsorship if I had to lose the rest, because they're the people.
Even over the businesses?
Yeah, they're the brands that have been with me the longest. They allowed me to get to where I am. They believed in me at a time when they didn't have to.
But do you believe in their longevity?
No, I don't. Like, I wouldn't sponsor me when I'm 40.
Which is weird, isn't it? Because you also had the same mindset when you first ever got sponsored.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, why would you sponsor me for wearing a pair of shoes?
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, I think I've got so lucky.
So people would still probably sponsor Tony Hawk, and it's funny I mentioned him because I thought of him because of you telling me about the game. They'd probably still sponsor him even if he was too frail to get on the board. Do you not see the same thing when you're 40?
Mate, no. I like all the brands I work with. They've all become my mates. There's an actual human element to it, and I don't like doing meetings over Zoom. I fly and sit down with people. Like, it's a big part of it. I honestly think like some of my success has been getting into the right room with the right people. I'm quite proactive with, like, okay, the guys in Germany, he's not answering my emails. I'm just going to go to Germany. And there's so much, like some of the best moments and the best like turning points in my career have just been from getting in the room with people, you know, not being a pest, but like it's just where deals are done.
Well, it was to get you on the podcast. It was actually a friend of mine that I went on a road trip with when I was 18. Is one of your pals, is Ed.
Yeah,
and he owns this brand Kex as
Yeah,
well, who
boy.
my agency have looked to do some work with. And yeah, he's a boy. And I literally just pinged him off a message. I was like, "Do you think he'd ask Matt if he'd come on the podcast?" Yeah, sure. No, here's his number. Like that, just so freely, because he must know that that's how you are. Like you're just kind of up for getting in a room and sitting down and doing something.
yeah, it's better, isn't
So
it? Yeah, I don't have a manager or like I don't really have a team. I'm probably a control freak, to be honest, because I'm scared to like give all that stuff. That I'm scared for people to speak on my behalf, I guess. I need to get there though and build a better team.
Were you like editing all your own videos over different time? Like how much stuff you done in house, or do you bring people in like freelancers and all the rest of it to kind of film the content that you create?
I filmed and edited all my own videos for years. Then I worked with a guy called Ben who started Hellfare with me, and he did the YouTube stuff with me. And now I've got a new filmer called Danny, who's brilliant. He's really creative. But if I go to Wales and film a video on my own, I'll still edit it, because I don't understand how someone else can make sense of a day's riding that wasn't there.
It's so funny. The first person that ever said that to me is the person about 20 foot away behind the steel door. Because we're actually outside Mr. Matt Armstrong's unit at the minute. And he just couldn't. I always teased him, like, you ever going to let go of editing your main channel videos? Like, nope, never.
Nah, I wish I still edited them. I just don't have time.
And that doesn't have time because of the things that you're doing. And we're going to go on to talk about your game, because like the second you told me about the fact that you were developing a game, I just thought that I was sat opposite Tony Hawk. It was like that early start. But I can't help it. You said when I was doing my research on another podcast that you wanted to talk to them about digging. Now, I said last week on a podcast to somebody that all blokes, and a lot of girls as well, because there's the Digger girl on YouTube and she absolutely loves it. But I'm convinced we have this thing in our head that the second we can dig something, we will. Yeah. With what any potential. And I did it the second I could get a 360 excavator in my field. I dug a lake. And like just went and dug the biggest hole ever. When were you digging? Because this goes alongside the bike stuff, right? You said that you were literally putting dirt into barrels and pushing them away. You'd go to the woods to basically to dig.
Yeah. That's the only way you can get good. You have to build the jumps. And the jumps didn't exist. I was lucky. I discovered some dirt jumps, but they were too small. The landings were too hard. They weren't the jumps that I required to learn tricks, so I had to build them, right? And at the time, after school, I met a guy called Jimmy Pratt, who's got some trails in Leatherhead, and he told me once when I went to his trails, after work every day he'll do 50 wheelbarrows, and at the weekend he'll do 100. And I heard that and I was like, well, that's what I need to do. That's if I'm not like motivated and consistent and like almost regimented with building jumps, they're not going to get built, and no one wants to help after school. So I'd get off the train in my school uniform, go up the woods, do 50 wheelbarrows every day after school and 100 at the weekend. And during that summer, that stuff got built and I got better. But for years I was spending more time with a shovel in my hand than a pair of handlebars, because I was obsessed with. I actually just like building. I think if there was a career in just building the jumps, I mean, I've almost done that. I dug up every garden I've ever lived in. I've dug up, and in lockdown I turned that into content and doubled my subscribers. So I actually have built for a living. So I'm buzzing with that.
And you're still building now, because it's funny. I get that. I think it doesn't necessarily matter if you're building or digging, for argument's sake, in the sense of manually or physically doing up the garden, or if you're doing it in code and online and you're doing it with digital tools these days, because sometimes the project is just as big, if not bigger. Now, the boys in the unit, myself, were saying, like, have you backed off the YouTube game a little bit more recently? There's not as much content. They're obviously on about loving watching every video that drops. And you said yes, because you'd said that you're spending 3 days a week, or have been, creating this game, which launches in a couple of days, and this will go out afterwards. So tell us about that. It sounds like the beginning of something.
It is. So for over a year, I've been working with a game studio called Third Kind Games in Leamington Spa that have worked on Forza, Sea of Thieves, Colin McRae. Like, they're a huge game studio. And I've made a publishing company that's going to create my first video game, which is an authentic open world mountain bike game. And we've got a 16-man team working on it full time. And for 2 or 3 days a week, I go there and sit with them and build a game. And the coolest thing is, I've been in it from the start because it was my idea. Whereas I think even games like Tony Hawk, they brought him in at the end to like market it right and brand it and make it massive. But I'm building a game where the controls feel like riding a bike. We've split the brakes up, so it's like front brake, back brake. Like you control where the rider leans, what they do with the handlebars. You can do whips, scrubs, race, get sponsors, all the things that happen in a mountain bike career that I've experienced and told the world about. You can now do in a game, and that's why I'm so buzzing about it and why it's been like the best build ever. Because little Johnny, who lives in a city and his mum won't drive him to the woods at the weekend, can immerse himself in a game with the same pro riders, the same brands, the same locations that he's watched on YouTube, right, for 25 quid. So that's what feels pretty special about it.
And where the hell did that idea come from? Like, where were you when that pinged into your head?
I was at a car event, sat down for breakfast when I had my Lamborghini Huracan Performante, sat down at breakfast with a guy who is in the video game industry. He asked what I did, I asked what he did, and we sort of said we could help each other here, because he was telling me how hard it is to create games now that are different and authentic, and I was already kind of thinking, what's the next big project for me? So it was the owning a Lambo that put me in a room with the person that could then unlock the conversation with a game studio to build a video game. And it's just lucky that I've made enough money to help sort of self-fund part of it with him, you know?
So how many years has this taken so far?
Over 14 months into development.
So you're 14 months in, so it's over a year of development.
Yeah.
And you're just to the point where
16
you're
people is a
launching.
really small team. That's tiny for building games. But like a lot of game studios will have over 100 people on a game. But it's still like, you can imagine 16 people working full time. The bills come around quick.
Oh, it's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Did you realise, like, there's not necessarily something out there like this for this particular world?
I don't think there's anything out there like this in any sport where like an athlete's been at the centre of the development and understanding what the controls should be like, because I really do know how to ride a bike, it goes without saying, but I know how to make a controller feel like I'm in control. And when I test it and we design tracks and we design slopestyle features and do the animations for whips and scrubs and all that stuff, I'm there sat down with the animator, the guy doing the physics, the game designers, you know what I mean, the artists doing it. Then it's like, it's way more work than I imagined. I thought it was going to be like, yo guys, how you getting on with the game? But I have to be there. And I've employed my twin brother now to be on it with me, because when I go away, someone needs to be there at the game studio, and it's like taken over our lives. So it's not surprising that I'm not making such like high quality, good idea YouTube videos, but I just want people to play this game and have fun with it. And the only way to do that is give it everything.
Are you convinced it's going to be a success?
Not convinced, no. But I'm super prepared for everyone's feedback and to like we'll learn from it. I think it has to be a success because it's so many people love bikes, so many people watch bikes on YouTube. Why wouldn't you want to do it? Like, why wouldn't you want to share that with people and be able to customize your bike, be able to build your own jumps, be able to capture content doing massive road gaps, all the stuff that surely everyone's striving to do. I know it's in a game, but the lines are getting blurred now between real life and games. Like the physics and the graphics are so wild.
Has it been one of the like most stressful things that you've been involved with?
No, it's been hard. It hasn't been stressful building it. It's been hard to have to pull away from the stuff that I was doing so consistently before, right? So YouTube videos. And do you know what the biggest difficulty was? It was doing it in secret. I don't know why I did that, but I wanted it. It takes so long that why would I announce a year ago I'm building a video game? Like it will lose interest, won't it? So that's why I've saved it. But spending 2 or 3 days a week doing something in secret when everyone just wants to see you doing good content, like Matt will be working on cars every waking hour, right? But if he had to spend half his time doing something else, you'd see it in the content. And that's been like hurtful for me because I know it's happening, but I just have to keep my cards close to my chest and hopefully reveal something that's so epic and so cool for everyone to get involved in that they make sense of it.
What's it going to be called?
Mavericks.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
That is very cool. And what's it going to be available on? Is this something that's like iPhone, iPad, or is this like Xbox, PlayStation?
It will be, yeah. We're going live on PC and then we'll port over to Xbox and PlayStation because it's like a AAA game. One day that phones will run that stuff.
Were you any good at gaming before this? Was that something that you did?
Yeah, I was a geek growing up. Yeah, I like games like RuneScape, like proper like video games we have to spend hours and hours and hours grafting and doing stuff. Then obviously Call of Duty. But yeah, I loved games.
So I'm just trying to picture like your week, like a couple of days a week. Like you sat there like constantly going over and over the game, being like, yeah, that doesn't feel all right.
Well, I've got a PC at home where 6 or 7 times a day a new build gets uploaded with the changes and I can test from home. But nothing works better than, again, like I said earlier, sitting down with people, getting in a room with people, holding a toy bike and explaining to a physics coach, like programmer, what happens when you turn in too hard on a bike, which wheel loses traction first, all that stuff. They don't know it. They need to be explained it, and they need to actually understand it. And you can't do that over text or...
I think what would be amazing if it came across in it, as I watched your Red Bull Hardline video.
Yeah.
And there isn't many videos you can watch like on the internet that just make you go and just have your mouth open in awe of something, because just looking down and seeing that drop and seeing how large the gap was as well, it's just wild. And like, if you could obviously transfer that onto something somebody could have a go with, then you even start to understand even more a little bit of the risk and how difficult it is, and if you struggle to do it in there. But that for you, was that like something, as much as many of us from the outside just look at guys at you and just think, oh, they must just have a screw loose, like a little bit, like I'm sure they do it absolutely fearless, like, is that the case?
Yeah, I think we're all a bit unhinged. I spent a lot of time on my own in the woods growing up and in my own head, and that probably, like, I don't know, I wasn't one for team sports. I wasn't one for kicking a football around with friends. I used to just like doing my own thing and focusing on sports where the progression is truly down to you and not a wider team, and not, you know, how popular you are at school. And bikes was just what I fell in love with. It's a perfect place to harness that. I don't think I'm mental. I'm actually quite risk adverse. But if I can see something working in my head and imagine it working, I'll do it. Yeah, if I can visualize it working, I'm not too afraid of it.
Have you had a few shocks with that though?
Yeah, 100%. But it's often stuff like wind, like the wind will blow me, and I had it all mapped out, and then I'll come up 6 foot short on a huge jump and, you know, blow my ankles.
What's been one of the like scariest moments whilst doing that?
The scariest jump of my whole life was the one at Red Bull Hardline over that ravine, 75 foot across that gap. I wasn't supposed to be there
75 feet.
Yeah, it wasn't the biggest jump in the world, but it was 80 foot down to the rocks below.
And they'd put some pads
That's a joke.
on the bits that you may 50-50 fall on.
You're not going in the gap. It's not an option. That was not an option. But I was terrified. I wasn't supposed to be there that day. I just got the chance to check out the course a week before the event. Then I ended up with the 2 riders testing it for some reason, and I was the only rider to kind of jump it half safely, really. One lad got really hurt. One of them, Bernard, almost had a bad crash. But that's because we could all tell the jump wasn't quite right, but we felt this like desire to almost prove that wrong and make it work, especially with the event the week after. And before I dropped in, I knew, I was like, this is going to feel horrible. That takeoff ramp's the wrong shape. But I truly believe I know how fast to go. And I know that at that speed, I'm not going in the gap. I'm not going to die.
As long as I get over there.
Exactly. As long as I go 76 feet, I'll survive. Maybe I'll crash and tumble down the landing and break both arms, but I'll survive. But I want to do this jump because it's been built and they've spent loads of money on it and time, and it's epic and it's the coolest photo ever. And my son will see it one day and be buzzing. But that was one time where I went, but if it does go wrong in this scenario, you are dead.
But you're like fully prepared for that.
Yeah, but I'd done all the right things to not die. I knew, I was so sure of the speed I had to go, and I was right. And if I wasn't, then I wouldn't have done it.
You've obviously had so many years of experience. Is there much that can like catch you out after that many years of experience?
Yeah. Dude, like a little tree stump hanging out the side of a berm that you can't see is the biggest like threat. It's the thing around the corner. It's honestly like a dog on a track in Wales. You come around a corner, there's a Labrador there. You're going to dodge the Labrador because they're nice, cute little puppies. You'll hit a tree at 40 miles an hour. It's those things that you can't account for. No amount of experience is going to save you from that. Like the best driver, if there's cut grass on the road, they're going off, aren't they?
Do you enjoy riding now more when you've got so much time split across going and building a game, going and creating a video, going and doing your clothing brand and working on that? When you've got all that to do and then you get the chance to get on the bike, is it more enjoyable than even the years when that's all you're doing?
When I go riding now, there's often an ulterior motive, which is make a video, or I'm testing a new bike from my bike sponsor, or it's a photo shoot, or I'm even going to do like research for the game for how suspension works, the sound on terrain. There's always a reason, right? That's sending me out to ride. And the days where I actually just go riding because I love it, and I'm going riding with my mates in Wales, or I'm on a chairlift in Whistler and we're just doing laps of fun, is the best. It really is. But it doesn't happen that very often for me anymore. And that's what I'm trying to get back to by building all the foundations to mean that I can just go and ride without any care in the world. That's my absolute goal and dream.
Isn't it funny that you take on all of these things for a perceived position of security and success, like another business, and because it's enjoyable to do, but it actually gets you to a place sometimes that's less enjoyable than the one that you come from. And you almost try and full circle it to get back to the bit that you
only end up back
from.
where you were, which is the same security I had as a teenager, living at home with my mum and dad, going riding up the woods, you know, with no mortgage. Like, all you're trying to do is chase that. It's just fucking loads of work.
Have you ever been
get there? But I'll get there.
Frustrated that you may have taken on too much, or is it just something you just swallow up and take in your stride?
Yeah, I've definitely worked a bit too hard for what I ought to do, but like I could just say no to a few things and spend more time on the bike. But then, like, where's the legacy in that? There isn't one, is there? I want to last longer and have a more prosperous career than the one that have ended for so many people already.
So that's obviously like a big driving force.
Well, yeah, it's either stay in the game as a professional mountain biker and build a future that includes bikes, or get a normal job and hope to ride at the weekends. But, you know, with a family, that's even a challenge. And I'm going to choose this one every day of the week, even though it's more work.
Well, it seems to be putting the pound, shilling and pence on the table as well, because we can't not talk about the fact that you have just bought this Murciélago SV.
What a car.
It's absolutely sick. It matches the piping in here. Like, I'm very lucky that you had a Performante, but those things, when you go to like the V12 old school cars, they're just another level. It's clearly the era that you like. So you've got the 360 CS as well, haven't you? If you had to have like one or the other, I know you haven't driven the SV loads yet, but do you already know which one it would be?
That's a hard choice. I think the Murciélago SV is peak Lamborghini. You know, 6.5 litre V12, naturally aspirated, makes loads of power, sounds amazing. V12, like, that's just cool as hell. I prefer, from what I've done in both, I prefer driving the 360 CS, the Challenge Stradale. It's way more on its toes. It feels way more light, agile, raw. But the Murciélago, I just can't put my finger on it, like, who they made it for. Like, what... When that car was new and on the market, who was the customer? Because it's like a rocket ship in a straight line, but like kind of weird to drive. Like the steering wheel's leant back like a van. You're not even sat in a straight line. It's a peculiar thing to drive. I don't know who wanted that or who the customer was for that. The doors open in an insane way. It looks outrageous, but I don't really get it. And that's probably what I love about it, is it's just a mystery.
Which is crazy, because the last guest that I had on the podcast was Valentino Balboni, who was the Lamborghini chief test driver for like the last 50 years. And he said like the same thing, that when you just get past like Countach, Diablo and then Murciélago, that's like the last proper one that even he thought, the ones that you almost made a bit pointless. Yeah. Before there was some sort of point to them, which is crazy, because that's exactly what you're describing about that car.
Yeah, I don't get it, and that's probably what is so cool about it, and why. And the interior is pretty basic. They didn't, you know, like I've seen in Matt's videos, a lot of the parts are shared with like a Ford Mondeo, aren't they? Like the vents and things, something like that. Anyway, cheap cars, right? But that's because they just wanted to make badass engines, and that's what's so sick about those cars, is the engines. And I almost love that the way they made the steering wheel look and the dash and everything was an afterthought.
For someone that sends it so much everywhere and does crazy things and would appear through their content to have a semi lack of care for some of them, is that Murciélago going to be used? Or is that something that sits in your barn under a cover because it was a perfect example from so-and-so?
No, I use all my cars whenever I can. I'm going to drive it as much as I can. I'll take it on track, 100%. That's what it was designed for, I think. But yeah, it's an investment, 100%. I'd be lying if I didn't think that car's going to go up in value. Same with the Challenge Stradale. That's in the back of my mind when buying them. But that's the beauty of owning a car like that, is you do get to drive it, and it actually has less impact on its value than a car that's going down in value, and you're driving it and it's just plummeting further. And so many people don't see that in the right way. Like, so many people are scared to put miles on cars because it affects the value. But then, like, what's the point? What is the point at that point?
Well, we've kind of warmed you up for this, because at the start you were sort of semi-worried to talk about having the Murciélago.
True.
Almost seemed like I don't want to talk about. Where's that come from? Is that because you were the secluded kid in the woods, like digging the dirt jumps? Like, do you struggle to almost show that? Are you worried to show that to your sponsors? Like they'll turn around and say, "We're flipping paying this guy too much." Like, what is it that kind of scares you about that?
I just think mountain bikers are people that like spending time in the woods and being outdoors and doing an extreme sport, and that doesn't always go hand in hand with flash stuff. I don't think it's a particularly. I don't know. I think I'm just scared to have nice things.
Are you worried about what the other mountain bikers think of you having a nice thing if you're still one of them? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably. They might think you've like lost touch with it, but I haven't. I just love cars, and I watch more car stuff on YouTube than bikes. I love cars, and I've just so happened to have ended up in the position where I don't have to just watch them at shows. I've been able to buy some cool cars, and like, why wouldn't you at the end of the day? If that's really what I love, I'm going to spend my money on that instead of something else. But, you know, in using a car, you have to get them out of the house, take them out on the open road, so people find out you've got them. And I like to incorporate it into content. It's just hard to figure out how, because I've got a mountain bike channel.
The SV was a huge purchase, but you did have the 360 CS, you bought the house, but all these things. What was like one of them purchases over the years that was just like, I can't believe I've done this? And from mountain bike, do you remember like one that sticks out as like how has this happened from this?
My dream car was a Mercedes C63 AMG, the big engine one, the W2. Yeah. And I bought one of them when I was 19, and that was an estate one to start with, and that was wild. I went from a Fiat Stilo for 3 years to a BMW 330D to a C63. And that was like, pinch myself. I thought, I've bought my dream car from only from biking, from prize money, from sponsorship. Like, bike brands have paid me to do the thing I like doing anyway, and I bought my dream car. So that was a wild, pivotal moment. So that will always be my dream car. I've said that before, but the Lambo was insane. I bought that in lockdown from, honestly, a lot of the money that I put into the deposit.
Is that how long you've had that?
I haven't got it anymore. No, the Perth.
Okay. For some reason, I just thought you'd hidden an SV longer.
Hidden it for 5 years.
Yeah, it's like your game.
God, I got a deal on it back then, I bet. I think lockdown, I bought a Performante, and it was just so sick. Like, there was no one even on the roads then, was there? I wasn't driving it illegally in lockdown, but like, I certainly had a little loop around where I lived in the countryside that I could make a load of noise and see what a V10 was all about.
It travels for miles, V10 sounds.
Yeah.
Like, so far.
Yeah, you know one when you hear one in the distance, don't you? Especially that engine. That was a cool car. Yeah, that was such a sick car. I missed that, actually. I'd love another V10.
Is there anything that you haven't done then? If you've got to the point where you're amazed that you've bought your Lamborghinis, you're amazed at the fact that you've got still your Red Bull sponsorship and clearly care about it, you're amazed that you've ticked all these things that you wanted to do in your life, do you ever come up against a wall that's just like, I don't know what to do next, like what the next big thing is? Because you say you're launching your game, that was obviously a big project, or do you just search for the next project?
The video game is an immense undertaking, and that is probably what you described. What's next? Well, that is what's happening right now. Like, as we speak, I'll go from here to see the guys building the game, and that's just part of my routine now. So I don't often look too far ahead of what's next. I've got a family now, which is cool, so that like builds into the big picture of where I'm going. But I always just pinch myself, to be honest. I know it sounds so cliche and lame, but I can't. I'm pretty staggered that I've managed to hold on to it for this long, and still like breaking new ground and figuring it out. Maybe that's all it is. Is that it's extreme sports is a new thing, and me and riders my age and my level are paving the way for the next generation, because it's all like prospecting. It's do you start your own clothing company, or do you get sponsored by one? Do you make your own video game, or do you do one in partnership with someone else? You know, it's all that.
And there's no handbook for that.
There isn't. No, there's not. Because when I was 18, there wasn't even any evidence that mountain biking was a career. I just thought that my idols got free bikes and free cans of Red Bull. And now, you know, through social media, you start to see behind the curtain that you can make a decent living from it if you just, go for it like a motherfucker.
Well, thank you for coming on this podcast. Thank you for telling me how you got to where you are today, and the whole audience that's listening and watching. Appreciate you telling us all the ins and outs of that, because I would have had absolutely no idea that Red Bull could just like whip up a surgeon within 24 hours and get to somewhere. I found that absolutely fascinating, and I'm sure there's so much more, and I'm sure we'll catch you on a road trip in the future or go and do something stupid with cars. And if I'm ever digging another lake, I know Decor to come and help me give a dig as well.
I'll do that for free.
Appreciate it. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Legend.